Of using crowdsourcing as an online business tool. Do stay with us. Welcome back to CNBC Africa's The Entrepreneurial Edge. I'm Chris Bishop. Now we're taking a closer look at the role of crowdsourcing in business. Now, still with me in the studio is Andy Hadfield, the Internet and Social Media Strategist at FNB Personal Banking. And joining us live from our bureau in Cape Town is Eran Eyal, the co-founder of springleap.com. Now, we saw an item on your company to start out with, and it seems that you're a bit of a pioneer in crowdsourcing.
I would say that, absolutely, especially in the Africa region.
Okay, and you said there's some changes in your business that are coming up as we speak.
There's going to be some pretty huge changes. We're busy developing software which is going to enable anybody to have their own crowdsourcing, social media, and networking platform. And we believe that this is strongly the way of the future, that people are going to be sourcing their product requirements instead of going from single individuals and getting all their requirements from single individuals or contractors. We're going to open it up to the crowd and let a world full of talented people fulfill creative requirements.
Eran Eyal, hold on there in Cape Town. Now, back to you, Andy, in the studio. Surely it's been said in the past that we've been talking here about getting ideas from massive crowds of people. It's been said in the past that surely it's the one person who goes against the crowd sometimes who comes up with the best ideas.
Disruption. One of the great creative elements. It is. Essentially, there are two models, as I see it, of crowdsourcing. The first model would be creating a community where people can engage and discuss and talk about ideas, and that community allows individual brilliance to shine through. I don't think Einstein crowdsourced his theory of relativity. I have a feeling he had some good chats with people in the laboratory tea room, but it was individual brilliance. The other crowdsourcing model is where you truly leverage the power of the crowd. And you have a lot of people working on a single idea, and you get a form of aggregated opinion. And I think there are applications for both in business.
Moving to some of the issues now, Eran, what about intellectual property? I mean, people come up with these ideas, they give them to you for a reward, but I mean, who owns the idea at the end of the day?
It depends on the client, and it also depends on what you put up prima facie. And it's very important to be transparent. That's the one thing that we've definitely learned about the crowd. The crowd will be fine with you so long as you're completely transparent. In our particular business model, we usually retain the intellectual property rights if it's something we source for ourselves, but we let the client retain the intellectual property rights if it's something sourced for them.
I mean, Andy, what about this idea of plagiarism even? I mean, if someone comes up with a brilliant idea, and then you find out he's taken it from somewhere else on the internet. How much of a danger is that?
You've got to watch on both sides. Not only could the idea itself be plagiarized, but the big brand that is running this campaign could be accused of stealing certain ideas. I could not agree with Eran more. You have to be extremely, extremely transparent when you are leveraging crowds. So, you see this especially when ideas got submitted to us during the FNB campaign that were already being done. So, for instance, if someone put in an idea that said, well, what if FNB Premier Banking had a private banker? Then people would be attracted to the online channel. And we had to say, terribly sorry, idea rejected. They already have a private banker. What you don't want to happen is that 1 year down the line, this person waltzes into a branch, sees a private banker, and says, that was my idea, and sues. So transparency is important. Plagiarism, it's important to watch out for it on both sides.
It can be a real problem. And bearing that in mind, Eran, how do you encourage people to take part? I mean, if someone comes up with a world-beating, groundbreaking idea, and maybe he's getting a few $1,000s or whatever for that idea, how much more difficult do you think in the future it might be to persuade people to part with their ideas?
Not very difficult at all. There's a world full of people out there who are waiting to fulfill the requirements of everyone from a corporate to niche communities or any niche requirement. Like I said in the beginning, it's very important to be transparent. And regarding the issue of fraud or any sort of problems that you may encounter or plagiarism, it's best to let the crowd bring it to light. And if you empower the crowd and you create a real Web 2.2 strategy, that will occur. The crowd will turn on to plagiarism, and they're very, very switched on.
I mean, Andy, I don't want to get into too many conspiracy theories here, but I mean, what's to stop anyone organizing a crowd to manipulate these crowdsourcing things to their own advantage and maybe to the detriment of the company who's trying to get the information?
absolutely nothing. And you see it happening all over the internet. On news aggregation sites where you see a lot of this crowdsourcing trend coming through, the crowd will submit news articles that they like. A perfect example is dig.com, D-I-G-G.com. They'll submit news articles or pieces of content, and the crowd will vote it up or vote it down based on what they think is more popular. Now, if you get 1,000 people to vote something up at the same time, you've got a good chance of getting that to the top. With that comes traffic. With traffic comes eyeballs. With eyeballs comes money. And that's how these things work. So anyone who's coming into the space, you have to watch out for gaming. You have to watch out for people trying to crook the system. And you'll find a lot of, Eran might be able to speak to this, but you'll find a lot of these platforms, crowdsourcing platforms, they have checks and balances built in. I'll give you a very simple example. One of the submissions to the F&B campaign, it sounded a little too well written for what it was. So we Google searched a couple of phrases and found that elements of it were taken from documents on the internet. Google's a great leveler for plagiarism.
So Eran, how much do you fear this? There we are. We got a laugh from Cape Town on that one. So Eran, how much do you fear this kind of abuse and manipulation in what is, essentially a marketing exercise?
Well, we've got very first-hand experience at this with SpringLeap, where we've been testing out our software for crowdsourcing specifically. And, you have to be very switched on yourself. Most of the platforms, first of all, have a method internally of creating an algorithm to watch out for fraudulent voting, if voting is the measure. So that's the first part. And then the second part is, of course, usually a panel or a dedicated team which cherry picks the best of the lot. So it's actually quite difficult to jury rig this at the end of the day, that when the crowd participates in the right way and you incentivize them and you put the right measures and barriers in place.
So Andy, I mean, any entrepreneur out there who's maybe not put their